Hi, I'm Ken Howard, LCSW, and welcome to the Gay Therapy LA podcast. Today, episode 49, the new COVID-19 coping, balancing toxic positivity with adaptive coping. And just a note, if you're hearing this and you have the opportunity to rate or review the podcast, I'd really appreciate it. I want to spread the word and have as many people as possible benefit from these materials and these episodes if I can. So if you have a chance to spread the word, I'd really appreciate it. The new COVID-19 coping, balancing toxic positivity with adaptive coping. This week, April 13, 2020, as we enter further into global stay-at-home orders, I'm noticing several mental health providers do some pushback to the more positive messages about coping with the current COVID-19 crisis and working from home or just being at home. My last 3 podcast episodes took this positive tone, with gay men and coronavirus COVID-19 a special kind of coping, gay men and the mental health aspects of working from home, and mental health during COVID-19 next to normal. And we're not done yet. There's going to be more. Because coping with the COVID-19 global stay-at-home, lockdown, quarantine, whatever you want to call it, demands revisiting our collective and individual coping strategies repeatedly. Why? Because the stressors come at us repeatedly, demanding a response. Perhaps my recent episodes, took a positive tone along with many others. Other providers of mental health services wanted to address the other side of that. That's kind of a technique in order for people to get listeners or likes or comments or whatever, which we all view as important. I just got through saying that. But, taking a contrarian view sometimes boosts your visibility. And visibility is how you help people. So, okay, I get that. But they're taking a contrarian tone in the sense of making the point that too much, however we define that, positivity, they basically say means hiding what we really feel, dismissing our emotions, feeling guilty for the negative emotions we feel, or shaming other people for having negative feelings. They argue that taking a positive tone can have the effect of invalidating, minimizing, or dismissing the very real experience of another, which just adds insult to injury. In addition to feeling bad, they are made to feel bad for feeling bad. But that misses the point of the materials that take a more positive tone. The feeling bad part is obvious. This is a terrible time. It's a time of social distancing that means the loss of human interaction and even human touch as we knew it. I did an interview with the Daily Beast yesterday about the lack of touch and how it's affecting the LGBT community specifically. And it's not just physical touch. It's also the loss of how others touch us in non-physical ways, such as hearing their voices reach our ears live in conversation, and not over the still rather tinny-sounding computer speaker or smartphone speaker. It's the loss of hearing an audience laugh or gasp at the same time in a movie theater or a live theater. It's the loss of hearing our fellow fans cheer or groan in a sporting stadium. It's the loss of singing along, dancing, and lighting an auditorium with cell phone lights, formerly cigarette lighters, at a concert. For both gay and straight, it's the loss of hooking up to get our sexual needs met. It's the loss of going on that first dinner date. It's the loss of going shopping and getting that slightly naughty feeling when we buy something we can only barely afford, but it gives us so much delight we can't seem to resist it. It's missing our favorite coworker drop by our desk at work and hearing his or her dumb jokes, or seeing our secret crush as he walks by the break room. Man, you gotta love Derek from accounting. Taking a positive tone doesn't mean that we dismiss or negate the painful pangs of those losses. Rather, all of this represents a choice. We can be victims or we can be survivors. I use these terms a lot when I'm providing therapy for gay male survivors of incest, sexual abuse, sexual assault, domestic violence, workplace bullying, discrimination, or other social or violent crimes. I think it's important to recognize both words, survivor and victim. It's not either or. We have to acknowledge the victim part because it is the perpetrator's fault. We didn't do anything to be the subject of another person's narcissistic or sociopathic self-indulgence, pathology, aggressive impulses, bigoted actions, impulse control problems, or violent tendencies. We were just being who we are, minding our own business, doing our jobs, walking down the street, going to school, going to a party, living in our neighborhoods, and still these crimes against us, particularly for any minority, but I focus my career's work on gay men, happen. But we are also survivors, because while the perpetrators can do their best to diminish us, it's only a proposal. We can reject their proposal and refuse to be diminished by another's negative actions. Their negative actions are their responsibility, not ours. We refuse to negotiate with terrorists. Living well is the best revenge. We reclaim our right to a safe and happy life in the name of our right to exist and our dignity. And gay men have to do this almost constantly. In the case of COVID-19, the perpetrator is not a person with narcissistic personality disorder, or antisocial personality disorder, or borderline personality disorder, or impulse control disorder. All of these are diagnoses in the DSM-5, the Bible of psychiatric disorders. It's a disease. It's a virus. We are being persecuted by an organism that is microscopic in its size and yet has the power to affect the whole world. Talk about big things coming in small packages. And the losses have been staggering, especially the ultimate, the loss of life. It's a loss not only for the person who has been deprived of a reasonable expectation of a long and regular, which changes over time, full human life expectancy, but the losses of everyone that person's life touched, which is the lesson many of us see every holiday season with reruns of the classic film, It's a Wonderful Life. One life touches so many others, is its message. We can't really do without anybody. And sometimes the most modestly led lives, not famous, not rich, not beautiful, no thousands of followers on Instagram, are the ones who have a profound impact simply by the humanity they represent during their time on Earth. And that's the lives. We also have losses about jobs and income and the fuel of the machinery of a capitalist society. Everyone helps everyone else in a big system that has to keep moving like fish in order to stay alive. The loss of group and family social rituals like weddings, graduations, and funerals. Anywhere where people simply gather has been taken away from us. One of the most profound American freedoms, freedom of assembly, has been temporarily suspended. And that goes against the grain of our nation's character from its very founding. I get it. These losses are significant. Even when all of this is over, however we define over, we won't be exactly the same. Gay men, and certainly others, know this well from the AIDS crisis. More recent generations know about it from 9/11. We will emerge, we have that hope, but we will emerge changed, and it's up to us to reflect and acknowledge change how? For the better, for the worse, or maybe a combination of the two. And it's that combination I talk about when we talk about the balance of not getting into a toxic positivity where we minimize or shame others for their feelings. Those feelings are normal, natural, to be expected in times of stress or hardship or loss, and they're nothing to feel shamed about. When we're going through bad times, the answer is right there. Through, surviving, adaptive coping. The only way out is through. It's a balance between acknowledging our negative feelings in order to psychologically, mentally, and emotionally process them, which is actually a neurobiological process called horizontal integration between the two hemispheres of the brain, of our memories and our emotions and our ability to form them into a cogent narrative in the left brain with language. Also, not letting negative feelings have the last word. It's a paradox. The more we can recognize and validate our negative feelings, ironically, the less impact they will have in their intensity and the duration of pain. Along with our obvious individual, family, community, national, and global losses, we can also apply good old-fashioned cognitive therapy to reframe the cognitions and change the narrative from a story of pure misery to one of both painful losses and important, if perhaps not quite joyful, growth. Someone said in a meme that if you don't emerge from this crisis having a new skill or accomplishing something new, you never lack time, you lack discipline. It's a little snarky, and it has been called out for being so, but I don't think the author's intent was to indulge in a shaming superiority complex, nor have my materials on encouraging adaptive coping as opposed to maladaptive coping like drinking too much, eating too much, or falling into despair. I think it was meant to be encouraging. One of my favorite New Age self-help authors, the late Louise Hay, encouraged people to ask themselves, no matter what, how can I take a positive approach to this? And taking a positive approach means knowing enough about self-care to realize that acknowledging and validating our bad feelings of sadness or frustration or anger, but also to try to reframe all changes as merely opportunities to adapt. Many of us have the resource of extra time dropped into our lap without having to commute to an office. Although it could mean a loss of a job and income, it also means an opportunity to have an abundance of the resource of time. We have 3 resources in life: time, energy, and money. And this crisis has created an increase in time to plan a new career strategy, to network online with your colleagues or potential colleagues, to learn a new language, to read, to study, to somehow improve ourselves or our spirits or our professional skills or our artistic expression. How many times did we all say before COVID-19, "Oh, I'd love to do whatever, if only I had the time"? For many of us, we have the time now. If it's not indulging in toxic positivity, we can say our wish has been granted. Think back to the days before COVID-19, really, interestingly, not that long ago, though it can certainly feel like it. Think of what you used to say that you would do if you only had the time, especially at home. Well, now's the time to do it. Ask yourself, is the best use of the extra time I have on my hands now really best spent on watching Tiger King? Maybe, if it amuses you, if it educates you, if it means you want to get involved in animal rights and care and that becomes a new passion or a new hobby. Or maybe it means you volunteer where people do it right for animal sanctuary, not the for-profit cruelty that Tiger King represents, and there are plenty more like him. What about reading? What about writing? What about the countless YouTube instructional videos or TED Talks or books that you can order online? What about trying a handicraft? If we wanted to, we could all knit handmade bedspreads if we wanted to in all of this. Or maybe it's about jogging or communicating with your partner, writing your novel or screenplay that you've been putting off for years, watching the complete films of Alfred Hitchcock, challenging yourself to master the art of French cooking by Julia Child. Cognitively reframing this extraordinary time in human history is not a crime, but neither is sitting and absolutely crying about the losses that have affected you. It's all your feelings, and it's all okay. Just for this week, see if you can reflect on your own need for balance. And if you need extra support for how to achieve that on an individual basis, my colleagues and I at Gay Therapy LA are available for phone or webcam online sessions all over California, all over the country, all over the world. For more information on that, visit gaytherapyla.com, or you can call or text my cell directly, 310-339-5778, and my colleagues and I would be happy to help. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.